new misery for us. So long as this old conditioning persists, we are not entirely free of suffering. How can one eradicate the old reactions? To find the answer to this question, it is necessary to understand more deeply the process of vipassana meditation. In practicing vipassana, our task is simply to observe sensations throughout the body. The cause of any particular sensation is beyond our concern. It is sufficient to understand that every sensation is an indication of an internal change. The change may be either mental or physical in origin. Mind and body function interdependently and often cannot be differentiated. Whatever occurs at one level is likely to be reflected at the other. At the physical level, the body is composed of subatomic particles, kalapas, which every moment arise and pass away with great rapidity. As they do so, they manifest in an infinite variety of combinations the basic qualities of matter, mass, cohesion, temperature, and movement, producing within us the entire range of sensations. There are 4 possible causes for the arising of kalapas. The first is the food we eat. The second is the environment in which we live. But whatever occurs in the mind has an effect on the body and can be responsible for the arising of kalapas. Hence, particles may also arise because of a mental reaction occurring at the present moment, or because of a past reaction which influences the present mental state. In order to function, the body requires food. If one stops feeding the body, however, it will not collapse at once. It can continue to support itself, if necessary, for weeks, by consuming the energy stored in its tissues. When all the stored energy is consumed, at last the body will collapse and die. The physical flow comes to an end. In the same way, the mind requires activity in order to maintain the flow of consciousness. This mental activity is sankhara. According to the chain of conditioned arising, consciousness originates from reaction. Each mental reaction is responsible for giving impetus to the flow of consciousness. And while the body requires food only at intervals throughout the day, the mind requires constant fresh stimulation. Without it, the flow of consciousness cannot continue even for an instant. For example, at a given moment one generates aversion in the mind. In the next moment, the consciousness that arises is the product of this aversion, and so on moment after moment. One keeps repeating the reaction of aversion from one moment to the next, and keeps giving new input to the mind. By practicing vipassana, however, the meditator learns not to react. At a given moment he creates no sankhara, he gives no fresh stimulation to the mind. What happens then to the psychic flow? It does not stop at once. Instead, one or another of the accumulated past reactions will come to the surface of the mind in order to sustain the flow. A past conditioned response will arise, and from this base consciousness continues for another moment. The conditioning will appear at the physical level by causing a particular type of kalapa to arise, which one then experiences as sensation within the body. Perhaps a past sankhara of aversion arises, manifesting itself as particles which one experiences as an unpleasant burning sensation within the body. If one reacts to that sensation with disliking, fresh aversion is created. One has started giving fresh input to the flow of consciousness, and there is no opportunity for another of the stock of past reactions to rise to the conscious level. However, if an unpleasant sensation occurs and one does not react, then no new sankharas are created. The sankhara that has arisen from the old stock passes away. In the next moment, another past sankhara arises as sensation. Again, if one does not react, it passes away. In this way, by maintaining equanimity, we allow accumulated past reactions to arise at the surface of the mind, one after another, manifesting themselves as sensations. Gradually, by maintaining awareness and equanimity toward sensation, we eradicate the past conditioning. So long as conditioning of aversion remains, the tendency of the unconscious mind will be to react with aversion when facing any unpleasant experience in life. So long as conditioning of craving remains, the mind will tend to react with craving in any pleasant situation. Vipassana works by eroding these conditioned responses. As we practice, we keep encountering pleasant and unpleasant sensations. By observing every sensation with equanimity, we gradually weaken and destroy the tendencies of craving and aversion. When the conditioned responses of a certain type are eradicated, one is free of that type of suffering. And when all conditioned responses have been eradicated one after another, the mind is totally liberated. One who well understood this process said, "Impermanent truly are conditioned things, having the nature of arising and passing away. If they arise and are extinguished, their eradication brings true happiness." Every sankhara arises and passes away, only in the next moment to arise again in endless repetition. If we develop wisdom and start observing objectively, the repetition stops and eradication begins. Layer after layer, the old sankharas will arise and be eradicated, provided we do not react. As much as these sankharas are eradicated, that much happiness we enjoy, the happiness of freedom from suffering. If all the past sankharas are eradicated, we enjoy the limitless happiness of full liberation. Vipassana meditation, therefore, is a kind of fasting of the spirit in order to eliminate past conditioning. Every moment for the whole of our lives, we have generated reactions. Now, by remaining aware and balanced, we achieve a few moments in which we do not react, do not generate any sankhara. Those few moments, no matter how brief, are very powerful. They set in motion the reverse process, the process of purification. To trigger this process, we must literally do nothing. That is, we must simply refrain from any fresh reaction. Whatever might be the cause of the sensations we experience, we observe them with equanimity. The very act of generating awareness and equanimity will automatically eliminate old reactions, just as lighting a lamp will dispel the darkness from a room. The Buddha once told a story about a man who had made great gifts of charity. But in concluding, the Buddha commented, "Even if he had performed the greatest charity, it would have been still more fruitful for him to take refuge with an accepting heart in the Enlightened One, in the Dhamma, and in all saintly persons. And had he done so, it would have been still more fruitful for him to undertake with an accepting heart the 5 precepts. And had he done so, it would have been still more fruitful for him to cultivate goodwill toward all, just for the time it takes to milk a cow. And had he done all of these, it would have been still more fruitful for him to develop the awareness of impermanence, just for the time it takes to snap one's fingers." Perhaps the meditator is aware of the reality of sensations in the body only for a single moment, and does not react because he understands their transient nature. Even this brief moment will have a powerful effect. With patient, repeated, continuous practice, those few moments of equanimity will increase, and the moments of reaction will decrease. Gradually, the mental habit of reacting will be broken, and the old conditioning eradicated, until the time comes when the mind is freed of all reactions, past and present, liberated from all suffering.